All right, it is 7 o'clock. We are going to get started. Hello, Miss Crystal. Hello, Miss Marilli. How are you? Today is going to be mostly math. That's what people had asked about, us doing some math. So I made some math questions. We've got square footage, we've got mils, points, NOI, things like that. So let's get right to it because math, the math. We'll see how long we can do some math. I know it is hard some days to math for long periods of time. So, and Miss Crystal, I know that you had specific types of problems. So if there's anything after we do all of this that you still want me to go over, just let me know. And I did these in a random order for you. So what we're going to do is I want to give you a chance to do the math, and I'll be doing the math and talking through it, and then you give me an answer. So here we go. An investor purchases a property producing a net operating income of $64,000. If the investor requires an 8% capitalization rate, what is the maximum price that they should pay for the property? So I'm going to go ahead, and I know there is a what do you call it? A equation, a formula. I need to know because we're talking about NOI. So we're talking about NOI and we're looking for a price. I know that if I take the NOI, net operating income, and I divide it by the cap rate, I will get value, which in this case would be the price. Now I'll make that a little thicker. Let's see what we got here. Boop. Let's try that. So our NOI divided by cap rate equals value, or in this case, price. It says our NOI annually, remember, NOI is always annual, it's 64,000. We're going to divide that by the cap rate, 8%. And where's my calculator? Oh, there it is. You got 800,000. Let me see if that's what I get too. Let's see, 64,000 divided by 8. That's what I got too. $800,000. Even. Perfect. So, my question to you, Miss Crystal, and of course you, Marilyn, if you want to try answering it, is do you have this memorized? Is this something that you know when you get to the test, you will be able to do? Because they do like to put this question on the test sometimes, and it's an easy one, right? So, let's see. Moving on. That was our NOI problem. Oh, I had plenty of space for that. Okay. An, a rectangular lot measures 240 feet by 180 feet. What is the acreage of the lot rounded to the nearest hundredth of an acre? All right, sure. Well, what do we know? We're looking for acreage. So there's some numbers we have to know. How many square feet are in an acre? Four old ladies going 35 when they should be going 60, or 43,560 square feet in an acre. Right? So it measures 240 feet by 180 feet. We know to find area that equals length times width, or width times length, whatever. I mean, it's multiplying, however you memorize that. So our 240 by 180 feet, that's going to give me 240 times 180. That gives me 43,200 feet. So whatever this answer is, we know it's going to be less than 1 acre. And if we had an A, a B, a C, a D choice, like if we had all those, then we could say anything that's over 1 acre, we're going to just get rid of it because we should be real close. 43,560 is a full acre. So we need to be like 0.9 something, maybe something like that. Let us see. So we need to know 43,260 square feet is what percent of 43,560 feet, which we know we're going to divide. So we're going to take the 43,200 and divide by 43,560. And that's going to give me 43,200 divided by 43,560 gave me 0.99173 da 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 da. Right? Now it asked us to round to the hundredths place. So you know this is tenths, this is hundredths. So that means rounded, I would have 0.99 acres. It is almost an acre. Acre, 0.999 of an acre. I don't know if we need the S or not, but we have to remember on the exam, they are going to ask us, and make sure that you know the formulas for area. We know how to find square foot, 43,560, all very important. Good. Nice. Nice job, Ms. Crystal. I thought you needed math. You are just going right through these. All right, let's see what we got next. Oh, I need to go this way, don't I? The annual tax bill on a property is $2,190, and taxes for the year have already been paid in full by the seller. Closing is on October 1st, with the buyer responsible for taxes for the day of closing, from the day of closing forward. All right, so the day that includes the day of closing, I'm assuming, using a 365-day year. How much does the buyer owe the seller as reimbursement? So we got to just make sure we know we are using a 365-day year. We know that the annual amount is $2,190, and they've already been paid by the seller. Cool. Closing is on October 1st. Now, I feel like I do these all the time. Oh, and buyer's responsible for taxes from the day of closing forward. Okay. I feel like we do these all the time, but that is okay because so many people struggle with them. So what we're going to do is draw out our little bar here. This is going to be 1-1. This is going to be 12-31. I mean, really, even when I'm doing math on my own for something, y'all, I still tend to draw out a bar because it just makes it easier for me to see what I'm collecting for. Closing is on October 1st. Maybe right about there. Which means the seller would be from here to here. And the buyer would be from here to here. So this is the seller, this is the buyer, and we know the seller paid in advance. This seller paid for the whole year, so the buyer needs to give. They need to give to the seller for their portion of the year, which we know is a buyer debit. So let's figure out a daily amount first. I don't know why, just because this number comes first. I'm going to take the 2190 and I'm going to divide it by 365. That's going to give me 2190. Oh, if I can use a calculator, 2190 divided by 365, that gives me, I got $6 a day. I have to figure out how many days that is. And if the closing is on October 1st, we have all of October, 31 days. All of November, that's 30 days. All of December, that's 31 days. What is that? 62? Or not 62. I can add 92. 92 days. So if I take that $6 and I multiply it by 92 days, assuming I did this right. Okay, I got 552. My off a day, let me see. Because I see, Miss Crystal, you got 534. So where did our numbers differ? Where did we differ? Because I got 552. What did I get? 552. So, Miss Crystal, did both of us get 92 days? You counted 89 days. Now, does it make sense how it wouldn't be 89 days because it's 31 days in October? It is 30 days in November and then 31 days in December. So that's 92 because it says the buyer's responsible. Nope, because it says the buyer's responsible for taxes from the day of closing forward. So we're including the day of closing. So the buyer is paying for all 31 days of October. It's supposed to be a check mark. 30 days in November and 31 days in December. Ah, that's right. That's okay. That's why we do this now. So we don't mess it up on the test. Good job. Good job. Good job. So 92 times 550 times $6 a day. Our final answer here is $552. We know that is going to be a buyer debit and a seller credit. Good. Yep. No, it's those days get you. It's not just you. Those days get a lot of people. So, hey, it's a thing. It's okay. All right, let us move on to our next one, number 4. And I think I did 3 of each of these types of problems you all asked me for. So it will come back, Miss Crystal. We will do another one. You'll have another opportunity to do it. You know, I just went in and said, hey, how do I find how do I give me some problems? These are AI problems. You all know I'm a big fan. I'm calling it vibe learning. Like AI is here, y'all. So figuring out how to use AI to help you pass the test, vibe learning. That's what I'm doing as I study for my degree. So here we go, or another degree, I should say. A property has an assessed value of $180,000. The local tax rate is 32 mils. What is the annual property tax bill? You all ask for mills, so I want to make sure we know whenever I see this word mills, I think MILL, which makes me think 1000. And as silly as it sounds, mill, I'm going to divide something by 1,000. Doesn't really matter which one I do. I'm either going to divide the assessed value of the house by 1,000. I could divide the 32 mils by 1,000. I tend to divide the assessed value by 1,000, but that's just me. So we see mill, we just go, oh yeah, 1000. So I'm going to take that assessed value, $180,000. I'm going to divide by 1,000, which I don't even need a calculator for this one because I'm a genius. There are 180 thousands and 180,000. Now I'm going to take that because I did step 1, divided something by 1,000. I'm going to multiply it by this 32. So 180 times 32. That gives me $5,760. 5,760 looks like the final answer to me. Crystal, is that what you got as well? And if anybody else wants to answer in the chat or whichever, you can. Oh, let me see what we got going on. Do I have chat? Boom. Hey, oh, Caroline, I forgot to email it to you. I'm sorry, I wasn't even looking at the chat. I will send that to you. I know it's in there and I have it to respond. I was just running around today. Don't worry, I will get it. Also, Miss Caroline, I have a special surprise for you. We had talked about, going over what it is that you need to ask and how you can be a successful agent. I have reached out to one of my friends who's a broker, who's of a company. He manages people, including new agents, because I wanted you to get the opinion, of course, my opinion, but I wanted you to get his opinion as well. So, and plus he's hilarious. So he's just got to let me know which date, which Wednesday or Sunday he can be here, but he will be here and you'll be able to ask him questions. And this will be for anybody. And that way you all can ask questions like, what does he see about successful agents? What does he see that makes it work? What makes, what doesn't work? All of those things. So I thought it would be nice not to just get my opinion, but somebody who's in the trenches every day helping agents. So, yay, I hope you like that. And hello, Miss Tricks. And yes, you got $5,760 too. Awesome. We all got that one right. Good job, us. Yay. Let's go. All right. A seller agrees to pay 3 points on the buyer's $180,000 loan as a concession. How much does each point cost, and what is the total cost to the seller? Let's start with points. What do we know about points? We know when it comes to points on this test, they will cost you 1% of the loan amount. And not that this problem asked, but we might as well review it. If we're trying to discount a percentage rate, it moves a percentage rate by 1/8 of a percent, which is 0.125. Right? So it moves 1/8 of a percent. We don't need to move any, interest rates around on this one. It's just asking about cost. So if this seller has agreed to pay 3 points and 1 point is 1% of loan amount, then I think we all understand the math that 3 points will be the equivalent of 3% of the loan amount. So we need to take that 3% of the loan amount, multiply it by the loan, or 3% multiplied by the loan amount. You know what I'm saying? Okay. 180,000 times 3%. Hit that bad boy. I got 5,400. Anybody else get 5,400? Miss Crystal got 5,400. Anybody else get 5,400? Meh, we'll see. All right. Let's see. Is that our answer? Yes, it is. 5,400. Boom. We're good? Sweet. All right, next. A buyer purchases 2.5 acres of land for $87,000. What was the price per square foot? Ooh, rounded to the nearest cent. So this guy or lady bought 2.5 acres. So if we were to take 2.5, multiply it by this unknown price per acre, that would give us $87,000. And the reason I'm laying it out that way is because I know so many of you are like, oh, am I supposed to multiply or am I supposed to divide? Well, this would be how we got to that answer. At some point, this buyer said, hey, I want to buy those 2.5 acres. And the seller said, okay, yeah, it's going to cost you X amount per acre. They've said 2.5 times whatever that amount. And they got $87,000. Now we can solve for our unknown. And that means we need to get it by itself. So if we are multiplying on this side, we're going to divide by 2.5 on that side. We're going to divide by 2.5 on this side. So our unknown price per square foot is equal to 87,000 divided by 2.5. So when I do that using my magic handy dandy here, I get divided by 2.5 equals, I got $34,800 per acre. But you know what? Hello, it asked me the price per square foot. Yeah. Okay, fine. That's not my final answer. This is what happens when I don't read. That's not my final answer. Look, Crystal, you were ahead of me. You were ahead of me. So now I know if it's 34,800 per acre, and I know there's 43,560, what do I need to do? Right? So now we could kind of lay this out the same way. We know that the price per square foot, we know that the answer would be 34,800. And if we take 43,560 and multiply it by whatever our price is per square foot, this is our unknown, we would get this number. So again, I'm going to divide this by 43,560, divide by 43,560, and that should give me 34,800 divided by 43,560. I got 0.7988, which I would probably round to either 0.79 or zero point 0.8, depending on my answer choices there. That would be it. Let me see. Did we do that right? Yes, it told me in my answer key 80 cents per acre. Oh, that's not what I meant to do. 80 cents per acre. Yes, perfect, Miss Crystal. Look, I see you saying you don't know, but you do know. I know you know. I see you getting it right. Good job, ma'am. Good, excellent job. You got to trust yourself. You got to start trusting yourself. And I see you all getting it right, Miss Tricks. I see you getting it right as well. You don't know why you're getting these right on here, and the test you must freeze up or something. So, Miss Crystal, let me say this to you and everybody else. You freeze up on the test. Let's say you do freeze up. What happens? You get it wrong? Are you going to quit? Obviously not. You're not quitting because you haven't quit yet. So take some of this pressure off the test. Now, I know it costs money, and I am not by any way belittling how much money this takes, but stop putting so much pressure on yourself. You passed the class, which means you have the ability to do this. I see you passing these test questions, which means I know you have the knowledge and you just called it out for yourself. You freeze up. Don't freeze up. Pretend like I'm sitting there and I'm a little voice in your head. If you don't pass, you don't pass, and you just do it again. So it's not a big deal. I mean, it is going to be a big deal. Don't get me wrong. It is a big deal. But if you can take some of the pressure off of yourself, I know you're going to do fine because I know you know this stuff. And Miss Tricks, I see you said you did it backwards. There is no doing it backwards. We could have broken this down and said, hey, it's 34,800 per acre, found out what that is per square foot and then multiplied it by the number of square feet we needed. That's not backwards. It's just different. It's just different. It still gets you to the right answer. All right. 7. A property generates $150,000 in potential gross income annually. Vacancy and collection losses total $9,000, and operating expenses are $52,000. What is the net operating income? So for this, we do need a longer kind of, I can't even call it an equation. We have to understand what net operating income is. And the way to put this is when you look at this on an annual basis, we've heard that saying, it takes money to make money. Yes, you might have a general amount of sales, whatever you're doing, how much ever money you're bringing in from rent, but that rent money you're collecting, it takes money to make that money. So when we look at the net operating income, we're saying, look, after our expenses, how much did I actually make? Just saying. So we know in general, if I take our potential gross income, we subtract out vacancies, right, and other kind of losses that we have, and we subtract out our operating expenses, we will get our net operating income. All right, see what we got here. Our potential gross income, $150,000. From that, we need to take out our vacancy and collection losses, $9,000. From that, we need to take out our operating expenses, $52,000. So, calculator time, 150,000. Subtract 9,000. Subtract 52,000. I got 89,000. And you all know I'm not the world's best mather. So, ooh, Crystal, you got $89,000 too. Nice. I'm hoping that's what everybody gets. Let's see. Hmm. Hmm. $89,000. Let's see if that is our final answer. This is number 7. Boom shakalaka. Hey, Miss Crystal, you got it right. You got it right. You got it right. Hey, you got it right. Do a little dance, do a little dance. Good job, ma'am. Good job. All right, number 8. We are flying through these. Yes, I love that happiness. I love that happy face. Love it. And good job, Miss Tricks. Good job. All right. A county sets a tax rate of 24.5 mils. If a property owner's assessed value is $95,000, what is the, where is this person living for $95,000? Must be nice. But if the assessed value is $95,000, what is the annual tax bill? Remember, we see this word mill. We think 100, 3 zeros. We think thousand. We need to divide something by 1,000. Now I'm going to do it the opposite way. Last time I divided the assessed value by 1,000. I'm just going to show you, you can do it either way and still be right. So I'm going to take the 24.5 and divide that by 1,000. So when I take 24.5 and divide it by 1,000, could I probably try to move the zeros in my head? I could, but I don't because I know I tend to mess it up. I get 0.0245. 0.0245. So now that I've got that number, I can multiply it by my assessed value, 95,000. So times 95, that's going to be, I got $2,327.50. Is that what you got? You got 2,280. I could have messed that up. I could have put in the wrong number. Let's see. Let me do that one more time. 24.5 divided by 1,000 should have given me the 0.0245. That's right. Multiply it by 95,000. Do I have the right number? Let me do it one more time, Miss Crystal. It could be me. It could be you. I don't know. So 0.0245 times 95,000. That is $2,327.50. Ah, you left off the 5. Got you. That's okay. Look, mistakes can happen. And you've seen me math in person and you doing this. Sometimes we're just not paying attention. So that answer that you got of 2280 might have been on the test, but that's okay. Oh, Miss Tricks, I see you got it right. Nice. You got 2327.5. You've seen me do it, Miss Crystal. I'm not judging you for it. I, yeah. Remember, if you had gotten that answer and that wasn't an answer choice from what you saw in your exam, that is just a sign that you need to stop, drop and roll, and or just redo it. Redo it and see if you messed up. And remember, I mean, in theory, you could get all the math wrong and still pass this exam. However, if you get half the math right, I mean, it'd be great if you got all of it, but if you got half the math right, how much more can you get wrong on the rest of the test? There are no math surprises. And that's what I love about doing this math. All right, number 9. You got 28% on real estate national math. Okay, now do you remember, were there any types of problems? Well, okay, in North Carolina, where I know you are, all of the math is on the national side. So do you remember what type of problems you saw that tripped you up? Or was it that you thought you knew how to do the problems and then you were surprised to get a 28%? Because that's two different things. It could be that you were making silly math mistakes. Definitely NOI you didn't know how to do. That's why we're doing those today. And now that you know how to do NOI, it's like, okay, easy math points to get, right? Easy math points to get. So just keep practicing and doing that math, because if you can get more of the math right, you can get more of the rest of the test wrong. And honestly, that's where it's at. All right, number 9. A buyer is obtaining a $220,000 loan. The lender charges 2.5 discount points. How much will the lender pay for points at closing? And I want to add something here. If the loan was, I don't know, 4.5%, what is the new rate? So I want us to calculate two things. How much should it cost? But let's go through and see how the points and moving the percentage of the points works. So let's start with the actual question that's written after I grab a sip of water. All right. So what do we know about points? We know, again, a point costs 1% of the loan amount. And we know it moves the interest rate 1/8% or 0.125. So let's start with part 1. We see there's 2.5 discount points. So 2.5 points is equal to 2.5%. So if I find 2.5% of the loan amount, 220,000, that's going to give me 220 times 2.5%. That gives me 5,500. Is that what you got? Hey, buyer will pay 5,500. Nice, Miss Chris. Love that. Yes. This is the cost. Like that. We got that down. Now let's do the extra. This loan was at 4.5%. Now I'm going to take that, and we could do it different ways. If we wanted to, we could draw this out, or we could just say, hey, it's 2.5. Well, you know what? I would choose 2.5%. So we know it was 2.5% and we paid. So every time we paid 1 point, it went down an eighth. And then you paid another point and it went down another eighth. And then let me make some more space here. Here, smooth this out the way. Then you paid a half a point and you got a new interest rate. So from here, you subtract 1/8 from here, and you would get a new answer. From here, you would subtract 1/8, and then you would get a new interest rate. And then you paid 0.5 of an eighth. I think probably the easiest way to do this is if we know it moves at 0.125, 125 times 2.5. You're moving it 1.25 percentages 2.5 times. So that means 0.125 times 2.5 equals, you moved it 0.3125. You're paying 0.3125 less than your 4.5. So I'm just going to do 4.5 subtract 0.3125. And that's going to be 4.5. subtract 0.3125. That means their new interest rate, oh, that's not a, would be 4.1875%. That would be the second final answer, or 4.2%. Nice. Absolutely nice. I love that. Depending on your state, I can tell you, Miss Crystal, in North Carolina, this math is definitely on the test of things you could be tested on. Not every state tests it, but quite honestly, if you're in a state that doesn't, if you're in residential real estate, you are definitely going to be dealing with people and their loans and understanding how points work. Heck, you all have heard me say this before. I mean, I want every single one of you to pass this test, but even if you don't, or if you do and then decide you don't want to go into real estate, I need the next time you go get a car loan or a house loan, I need you, when they start talking about points, being like, oh, no, see, you can't confuse me. Don't be trying to talk me in circles. I know what a point is. I sure do. So there, those are our two final answers. All right, next. Annual property taxes are $3,650 paid in arrears. That's important. We know if it's paid in arrears, you paid for, so let's see, boop, boop, boop. If this was 2025 and this is 2026 and this is 2027, the amount that you owe for 2026 gets paid in 2027. You're paying in arrears. Now it says closing is set for July 15th. So if this was 7/15, we know from here to here is the seller. And we know from here to here is the buyer. But the buyer pays everything in 2027. I don't know about you, but if I'm the buyer of the new house, why am I paying for the time the seller had this house from January 1st to 7/15? Because the seller is getting the day of closing. It's a 365-day calendar year. So yes, seller, but this is not a free ride. You need to give me your money from 1/1 to 7/15. Seller, you owe, which is going to be a seller debit for 1/1 through 7/15, including the 15th. So we got January, February, March, April, May, and then in June and July. We got 31 days in January, 28 days in February, 31 days in March, 30 days, that's a 4. 30 days in April, 31 days in May, 30 days in June, and then 15 days in July. So let's add all that up. 31 plus 28 plus 31 plus 30 plus 31 plus 30 plus 15. I mean, it's about half the year, right? So 196 days. I myself like to do this math twice because I'm a fool, right? I will mess up some math in a heartbeat. So let's see what we got. 31 plus 28 plus 31 plus 30 plus 31 plus 30 plus 15. 196 days. We got to figure out a per day. So if I take the 3,650 and I divide by 365, what is that, $10 a day? Just double checking because I don't math very well. 3,650 divided by 365. Yeah, it's $10 a day. So 196 days times $10 a day gives me $1,960 debit to the seller and credit to the buyer. And we know the buyer's going to put that into their escrow account, right? And they're going to pay the bill later. Nice. I forgot a zero here, didn't I? Boom. Nice, Miss Crystal. I like it. I like it a lot. All right, let's see what else we got. Number 12. A parcel of land is described as a triangle with a base of 300 feet and a height of 220 feet. How many square feet are in the parcel? So I like to draw these out. We got a parcel of land. It's a triangle. We can always assume it's a right triangle. And we know area of the right triangle is 1/2 times the base times the height. We know this is the base. We know this is the height. So area is equal to 1/2 times the base, which is 300. We got a height of 220. So it would be the base, 300, times the height, 220. That should give us our square feet. Let's see, 0.5 times 300 times 220 equals 33,000 square feet. That's what I got. 33,000 square. Yes, Miss Crystal. Nice. See, Miss Crystal, you can do this. You can do it. You're just talking to yourself, which I get, and you know I hear the voices in my head. You're just talking to yourself and getting in your own way. Stop that. All right, because that was our final answer. And I only did, what, 15 of these problems. So after we finish this math, we'll jump right into some questions. Well, those other types of questions. Unless there's another type of math problem you need me to do. Oh, I don't need to go down. I need to go over. A homeowner's tax bill is $2,400 on a property assessed at $150,000. What is the mill rate? Okay, we saw that fancy word mill, so we know we're dividing something by 1,000. Again, I'll do it the way I like. I'm going to take that assessed value and divide it by 1,000. That gives me 150. I can take that 150 and multiply it by okay, what am I doing? I'm losing my mind. That's what I'm doing. I did not even read that right. Let's try that again. Pause. Let's try that again. So we know, if I can get my life right here, the tax bill was $2,400. It is equal to the tax rate times, and we could still do it, 150,000 over 1,000. So we figured this was 150. If you multiply 150 times that tax rate, you would get 2,400. That's a much better. There's a second part to the NOI. You can't remember what it is, so you have to find your notes. In general, oh, let me finish this and I'll address that. So we know to get that 150 by itself, we're going to have to divide by, put this over here, divide by the 150. I got to divide by the 150 over here, and that will give me tax rate of 2,400 divided by 150. Why did that not happen right? 2,400 divided by 150. Ah, there we go. 16. Our mill tax rate is 16. There we go. Hopefully that makes sense. Mm-hmm. Now, Miss Tricks, I see you got 330,000. Was that when I was kind of setting it up the wrong way? I want to make sure. Okay, you got 16. Perfect. Perfect, perfect, perfect. I love it. I love that for you. All right, let's see. Next. Now, oh, I want to address that. You said you saw something else with NOI. Well, in my experience, and I could be wrong, but most of the time when you see NOI, there's two things they're asking you to do with it. They're either one, find the NOI, or two, use NOI to find value or the cap rate. Either they want you to define NOI and know you have to take out the operating expenses and the vacancies, or they want you to find value or a cap rate or something related to what the actual NOI of a property is, if you know how to do it. Yes. So okay, I see in your notes, potential gross income, income that would be produced if every apartment was rented 100%. Effective gross income, yes. That's the potential gross income minus the vacancy and credit losses, plus other income. And then you take your net income and subtract your gross income and your vacancy and credit losses minus the operating expenses. Exactly. What you just put in the chat, let me go back here. Sorry, guys, is this. What you put in the chat is this right here. Your potential gross income would be if there was 100% rented every single day. Nobody missed out on a day of rent. When somebody moved out, the very next day, somebody moved in. There was no late fee. Like, we're talking about what is it if everything was absolutely perfect? From that, you would take out your vacancies because we know in reality, that's not how it works. You're going to have some vacancies sometime. And then you subtract out those operating expenses. We're not talking about anything having to do with a mortgage or a loan, but hey, what are the expenses in running a business? We take those out, and that is how we come up with our NOI, our net operating income. So yes, that is one of the two ways they could test you on that. So does that kind of make sense, Miss Crystal? Do we need to dig into it some more? I don't mind, but yes, it makes sense, or yes, we need to dig into it. Sorry. I was like,
it makes sense.
Good, perfect. But I love the fact that you have that in your notes so that you can, so it makes sense. It's gonna sink in and you'll be able to do it. All right, where were we? I got to go back here. We did 8, we did 9, we did 10, we did 11, we did 12, we did 13. All right, 2 more math problems. A lender quotes an interest rate of 6% with 0 points or 5.5% with 2 discount points on a $250,000 loan. How much would the buyer pay in points to get the new lower rate? Okay. Well, first of all, 2 discount points is not okay. I'm not even going to try to make it make sense. It said 5.5% on a $250,000 loan with 2 discount points. Okay, let's figure it out. We know 1 point equals 1% of the loan amount. And if we got 2 points equals 2%, and it says our loan amount is $250,000, so it's one of the times I don't look at the validity of the question. I just say, it asked me to do something. Let's just do it. So 2% of $250,000. And yep, $5,000 it is. 5K. Boom. Nice. Final answer. And number 15. Ooh, nice long one. A property's annual taxes are $4,800 and have not yet been paid for the year. $4,800 unpaid. Closing occurs on September 1st, and the seller is responsible for taxes through the day of closing using a 360-day year. So through the day of closing, that means seller gets day of closing. How much does the seller owe at closing and how much does the buyer owe? Okay, so it wants us to split up this $4,800. How much does the seller owe? How much does the buyer owe? Well, we know from here to here is the seller, and we know from here to here is the buyer. So I feel like this is only 3 months. You got September, October, November, December. That's 4 months. That means over here we got 8 months. And if we're using a 360-day year, then, it's 12 months, each of 30 days. What I could do is take that $4,800 and divide it by 12 to get how much you owe per month. So 4,800 divided by 12 is going to give me $400 a month. So if this buyer owes September, October, November, December, and the seller is responsible for taxes through the day of closing. Okay, we'll add and take a day off in a moment. That's fine. So that would be 4 times. So that would be $400 a month times 4 months. That's $1,600. Right? That is $1,600, and make sure. Now we got to take out a day, because it does tell me that the seller is responsible through the day of closing. So that means the seller actually owes for 9/1. Well, if it's $400 a month and it's 30 days in a month, that's going to be $1,333 a day. So I can take this $1,333 off. 1,600 minus 13.33, and that's going to be 1,586.67. Yes, they are both debits since one has to pay. So 1,586.67. Now, what I would do is I would just say, well, if it's $4,800 total and the buyer owes 1,586.67, the difference would be what the seller owes. So subtract 4,800. That should be $3,213.33 for the seller, assuming I math right. One never knows. One never knows. I think we mathed right. We got 1,586.67 owed by the buyer for a debit, and it would be 33 or 3213.33 seller debit. Now, quite honestly, if I were doing this math on the test, if I got this problem on the test, clearly I know how to do it because I just checked my answer key. I got it right. I would save this for last. Ain't nobody got time for this. Ain't nobody got time for this math. It is a long problem. It's not hard, but if you're somebody who doesn't like math, it can be a pain in the butt. Miss Tricks, I see you with your right answer over there on YouTube. I see you. Nice. And yes, they're both debit. So boom, your answer choice would be like C, 3213 seller debit and 1586 buyer debit, something like that. Nice. Right. And that was the last of the math I prepared because those were the types of problems you asked me for. Miss Crystal or anybody else, was there any other type of math that you wanted me to go over? Something I didn't prepare anymore, but I can find one. Otherwise, I will jump right over to some other types of practice questions. So, boop doop doo. Let's do some questions. Here we go. Oh, right back to some math. We'll see. Number 184. On a settlement statement, an item that increases the amount a party owes or reduces the amount they receive at closing is recorded as a what? So on a settlement statement, an item that increases the amount a party owes or reduces the amount that they receive at closing. So if it increases the amount that you owe, then that means it's more money that you owe. So is that a credit or is that a debit? We know the answer is not reconciliation. We know the answer is not proration. Is it a credit or is it a debit? What say you? If it's money that you're going to owe, nice, Miss Crystal. Yes, that answer is a debit. It increases how much you owe. You owe, so it's a debit. It reduces the amount of money that you receive. So it lessens your credit. So that is a debit. Good job. All right, 185. A buyer's new mortgage loan of $216,000 closes on the 21st day of a 30-day month and an annual interest rate of 6%. The lender collects prepaid interest for the close for the 10 remaining days of that month. Right? Using a 360-day year, how much prepaid interest is collected at closing? So we know if this was, what's this month, July, if we had a closing on the 21st, that bank is going to collect from the 21st all the way here. They're going to go ahead and collect that money that for this July. So what you would owe for all of this, they collect on the day of closing. So that on the 1st of August, you don't have a payment. What you would owe for August, I wanted to do that in the different color, boop. What you owe for August, all of this gets paid in September. So September 1st covers what you owed in August. What you would pay in August, what you paid in July would be done in August, but you paid it in advance. So hopefully that makes sense. Now let's finish our math. So I'm going to take the 216,000, going to multiply it by 6% to get annual interest. So 216,000 times 6% gives me 12,960 annual. I can divide that into daily. Divided by 360 days gives me 36 a day. All right. So we need the 10 remaining days. We need those 10 remaining days times 10. It's $360 you owe for those 10 days. Final answer. All right, Miss Marilli, you got 30. Hopefully you understand why the answer is not C. Oh, you did C for 184. I got you. And Miss Crystal, you said B. I think you just forgot to move a decimal somewhere, but hopefully that makes sense why the answer is what it is. All right. Okay, number 186. Oh, more math. I didn't plan on doing more math. It just kind of worked out that way. The seller has prepaid annual HOA dues of $1,200 per year, using a 360-day year for proration. Closing occurs on the property the seller owned for 240 days of that year, though through August 31st, leaving 120 days of the year for the buyer. How much will the buyer owe the seller for the HOA dues at closing? So it's telling you the buyer owes for 120 days. If it's $1,200 a month for a year, I can divide that by 360. And I mean, I could do it also by 12, whichever, but I could divide it by 360 and get a daily amount. $1,200 divided by 360 gives me $33.33 a day for this HOA. We know it's going to be $333 a day times 120 days. Let's see. That gave me $399.99. Final answer. We could round that to 4. If you wanted to round, you would not be wrong. The answer is either 399.99 or 400. And yes, our answer is B. Miss Trix, you said you have to practice more of the acres and points, but you're getting there. All right. And Miss Trix, are you using AI to come over? Wednesday property management. That one's a little hard. I can try property management and agency. If we do agency and property management, it'll be very basic things because the laws and how agency works in every state, whether it's property management or agency, can vary. I can do some national stuff, but it's not going to get you those documented like details. I'll try to come up with something. Let me write that down. So on Wednesday, we want to do agency and property management. Again, it won't be exact scenarios because state. All right, 187. Oh, another math. A state imposes a real property transfer tax of $150 for each $500 of the sales price or fraction thereof. What is the transfer tax, otherwise known as revenue stamps or excise tax, depending on your state? What is the transfer tax due on a property selling for $342,000? So I'm going to take the 342,000 and I'm going to divide it by 500. I want to know how many 500s there are and 342,000. So 342 divided by 500. That gives me 684. 684 is the number of thousands in 342. So we know it's 684. That's how many times you have to pay $1.50. So $1.50 times 684. That's 1026. 1026. Final answer. And that matches A. 1026. How do we do on that one? Hopefully well. Good. Good, good, good. All right, 188 and some water. A lender requires a current survey of the property before closing, primarily to what? Good job, Miss Trix. I see you there. I know it's a little bit of a delay. That's okay. A lender requires a current survey of the property before closing, primarily to A, replace the need for title insurance, B, identify the property's boundaries, improvements, and any encroachments or easements not apparent from the public records. C, verify the seller's credit history, or D, determine the property's current market value. What are we trying to do with a survey? All right, you all told me that it's B, identify the property's boundaries, improvements, and any encroachments and easements. Yes. All right. And let's just make sure why we understand this is right. The answer. Well, what do we care about the seller's credit history? They're selling their house, whatever. Replace the need for title insurance. No, you're still probably going to get title insurance, and the title insurance is to protect more so the lender. Yes, the borrower too, but they are getting some title insurance. And then determine the property's current market value. If you want to know that, you're going to get an appraisal. So right answer for another problem, but not this one. B is our final answer, and we got it right. 189. Shortly before closing, the buyer conducts a final walkthrough of the property, primarily to A, satisfy a legal requirement for the deed to be recorded, B, renegotiate the purchase price paid on current market conditions, C, confirm the property's condition is substantially the same as when the offer was accepted and that any agreed upon repairs were completed, or D, allow the buyer's lender to conduct a new appraisal. Well, it says shortly before closing, and you're doing a final walkthrough. So I'm hoping that the buyer's lenders doesn't need a new appraisal. Like that should have already been talked about, dealt with. No, that's not what we're doing here. And there is no legal requirement for a deed to be recorded. So taking a walk through the house, even if that was what you wanted to do, is get the deed recorded, how does walking through the house accomplish that? Spoiler alert, it doesn't. Renegotiate the purchase price based on current market conditions. What? No. Should have done that when you were getting under contract. Or C, final answer, confirm the property's condition is substantially the same or better. Boom. We like that answer. Like it. All right. 190. After closing, or not after closing, at closing, after the deed is signed and delivered to the buyer, the title company or closing agent will typically A, record the deed promptly in the county land records and establish priority and provide public notice. Okay. Or B, wait at least 1 year before recording the deed. Absolutely not. No. C, destroy the original deed once a copy's been made. No, we're not destroying any deeds. D, return the deed to the seller for safekeeping. No, why does the seller need it for safekeeping? The seller just gave away their house. They sold it. So no. Our final answer and only possible choice here is A, record the deed promptly in county land records to establish priority and provide public notice. Snaps to us 191. A purchase agreement states that closing will occur on June 15th, but the seller may remain in the home until June 20th under a temporary occupancy, a RIP back, what that's called, agreement. Under this agreement, A, ownership transfers at closing on June 15th, but excuse me, but physical possession is delayed until June 20th under the agreed terms. I like that. I like that. I'm not going to discount it yet, so let's just put a little line right here. B, both ownership and possession transfer automatically on June 20th, regardless of the closing date. No. If the closing is on the 15th, the closing's on 15th. It's a rent back. The seller doesn't get to keep title. They just have the right to live there. So with those, no, it's not both the ownership and possession transfer automatically happen. No. Mm-mm. C, the buyer has no recourse of any kind if the seller fails to vacate by June 20th. That's not true either. Person's renting. Have them evicted. Get them out. Now, can that be painful and long and expensive depending on who the buyer is and how far entrenched they are in your home? Yeah, could be, but all right. Or D, the closing is automatically void unless possession occurs on the same day as the closing. I hate that automatically void word. So our only possible answer is A, ownership transfers at closing on June 15th, but physical possession is delayed until June 20th under the terms of the agreement. 191. Nice. All right, 192. At a successful closing, the buyer's earnest money deposit held in escrow is typically. So upon a successful closing, everything happened the way it's supposed to. What happens to this earnest money? Is it A, donated to a charity? I like charities as much as the next person, but no, I want my money back. B, return in full to the buyer in cash at the closing table. C, applied toward the buyer's down payment and or closing costs. Or D, forfeited to the seller as a closing fee. We know it's not A, we know it's not D. Now, we got two options: returned in full to the buyer in cash at the closing table, or applied towards the buyer's down payment and or closing costs. The answer is C. You are probably not going to get cash back for anything like that. You're going to get a credit, but it'll be credited at your closing. You're not going to just get cash. Is it possible? Yes, but not what we're going for. You said the other answers are wild. All right. 190, what are we on? 193. A real estate salesperson may only practice real estate activities under the supervision of, as in A, no supervision is required once, okay. Next. Y'all know you have to be supervised by a broker. B, any licensed salesperson with more experience. No, just another licensed salesperson can't supervise. No. C, the state real estate commission directly. Well, not all states have real estate commissions. Sometimes they have boards or whatnot. And then D, a licensed sponsoring managing broker. Now that sounds more like it. You know you're going to be supervised by your broker to make sure you're doing everything right. Boom. All right, 194. Insurance that protects real estate licensees against claims of negligence, mistake, or omissions made in the course of their professional duties is called A, errors and omissions insurance, B, hazard insurance, C, title insurance. We know it's not title insurance. Or D, a surety bond insurance. You know, that's like bonds for having to do with money. This is not what we're talking about. We're down between A and B. Is it called E&O insurance or is it hazard insurance? And if you said, I know the answer is E&O, nice job. The answer is E&O, errors and omissions. Because, you know, you get claimed against negligence, mistakes, or omissions. Errors and omission insurance. Perfect. All right. 195. A listing agreement in which the seller specifies a minimum amount they must receive from the sale, and the agent's entire commission consists of any amount the property sells for above that fixture is called a listing agreement in which the seller specifies a minimum amount they must receive, and then the agent's commission is anything above that figure. Is that an exclusive right to sell? Is that a net listing? Is that an open listing? Or is it an exclusive agency listing? What say you? Really, you said B. Crystal, you said B. Miss Trix, you're telling me it's not A. It's not A. I think you're telling me A for 194. So 195, I think you all already know this is B, a net listing, which is illegal in so many states. Illegal. I figure we'll just do these 200, right? We can get through these. Cool. 196. In a commission dispute between two brokers, the broker whose uninterrupted efforts were the primary cause of bringing about the sexual transaction is generally entitled to the commission under the doctrine of A, procuring costs, B, vicarious liability, C, net listing, or D, subagency. It's not vicarious liability. Not sub-agency. And we know it's not net listing, giving us a final answer. 196 is A, procuring costs. Now, most states have a rule that you need to get that agency in writing anyway if you want to guarantee payment, but still, you should know that term, procuring costs. Also, get your agency agreements in writing. 197. Under an exclusive right to sell listing agreement, the listing broker is entitled to a commission if the property sells during the listing term. All right, so under an exclusive right to sell listing agreement, the listing broker is entitled to a commission if the property sells during the term. Okay. Pull it together, Candace. Let's rewind this back up. I don't even know where my rewind noise is. Oh, here it is. Shake it out. Let's try that again. Under an exclusive right to sell listing agreement, the broker is entitled to a commission if the property sells during the listing term, if it's A, only if the property is sold through the MLS, B, regardless of who finds the buyer, including if the seller finds the buyer without any broker's help, C, only if a cooperating broker from another firm finds the buyer, or D, only if the listing broker personally finds the buyer. 197, really, you're telling me B. Miss Crystal, you're telling me B. Right? All right. Miss Trix, I haven't seen your answer yet, but you've been getting these right so far. So I think you already know, since this is an exclusive right to sell listing agreement, you get paid no matter who finds the buyer. That would be B. Okay. 198. Under an exclusive agency listing, if the seller personally finds a buyer without any broker's assistance, the seller. So this one is an exclusive agency listing, and the seller personally finds the buyer without the broker's help. Is it A, owes no commission to the listing broker for that sale? B, still owes the full commission to the listing broker? C, is in breach of the listing agreement for finding their own buyer? Or D, must pay a reduced commission split among all brokers in the MLS? What that D sounds terrible. That's a D for definitely not the right answer. So what is it? 198. I got two A's. And we got A. Oh, I like to eat those A's. Nice. You owe no commission because it's an exclusive agency listing. If they did the work themselves, they're not paying you. 199. Several competing brokerages in a local market informally agree that they will all charge the same 6% commission rate on listings. Oh, these fools want to go to jail. This arrangement would most likely violate, is it A, antitrust law? Okay, I already know that y'all know this. The antitrust laws. Boom. You saw that when they said all charge the same 6%. That's just price fixing. We can't do that. We know that's the answer. But also, let's make sure we understand the other choices. The statute of frauds, that would have to do with it being in writing. That wasn't our answer. Fair housing laws, because commission rates are considered a protected class. No. Or D, RESPA's anti-kickback provisions. Well, yeah, RESPA definitely has some anti-kickback, and as in don't do it provisions, but that's not what we're talking about here. So our answer is not D, proving our answer is A, antitrust law. All right, and 200. Can you believe we got through 200 of these questions in the last month or so? A broker deposits a client's earnest money into the broker's personal checking account. Oh, this is not going well. And later uses some of these funds to also pay a personal credit card bill. Okay, they're trying to go to jail. A credit card bill, intending to replace the money later. There is no intent. You did something illegal. This conduct constitutes commingling and also a standard accounting practice as long as the funds are eventually replaced. No. An acceptable practice if disclosed to the client. No. Afterward. Absolutely not. C, Conversion, a serious violation that can result in license revocation and criminal liability. I mean, C sounds kind of good, but is it conversion? I don't know. Let's see. Or D, a minor administrative error with no licensing consequences. You already knew this wasn't the answer. So even if we didn't like conversion, it is the only answer choice, but it is in fact our correct answer choice. Pin drop. 200 questions. So, ladies, I hope this helps. I know I get people that watch this that can't be on with us, and they do thank me all of the time. So, I thank you all for being involved with me. I know on Wednesday we're going to go over, I wrote it down somewhere. Oh, agency and property management will do questions. Hopefully, there shouldn't be too much math. That's some jail time, right, Tricks? This person is trying to go to jail. They must think that they want to look good in orange. Absolutely not. So, ladies, I will see you later. Everybody have a wonderful week, and I'll see you next time.